Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll move to our Meet the Candidates portion of our evening. And I just want to explain briefly how this works. Each candidate has 3 minutes to give an opening statement. Following the statements, I will ask several prepared questions. And as time allows, we'll have questions from the audience. If you have a question that you'd like to ask, my colleague has some note cards. If you just raise your hand, she can bring you a card, and we'll include a couple of those as well. So each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. We will go in order. We'll start with opening statements with Ms. Beach, and then we'll go through in order. The first question will go to you, Mrs. Young, and then we'll go through that way. So you will each start something twice, if all works as planned. Please note that we won't allow any questions that are only for a specific candidate, meaning that you'll each be given the opportunity to answer any question that comes from the audience as well. And then you will each have 1 minute for a closing statement. Mr. Roberti will serve as our timekeeper, as he just mentioned. He will warn you at 1 minute and at 30 seconds, and then we'll alert you when time is up. And I'd like to, again, remind you to keep your answers to the questions that are asked. This is Meet the Candidates, so people can get a sense of who you are and what your views are, and it's not intended as a debate. So we will be filming this portion of the evening. Both the budget hearing and the Meet the Candidates portion will be posted online, so you can tell friends and family, probably after Wednesday, that they'll be able to view this. Actually, we'll try to get it up by Wednesday, since voting day is next week. So we will start with opening statements. We'll start here to my left.
Okay.
You have 3 minutes.
Is it working?
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you all for giving me an opportunity to introduce myself to the community. I have been involved with Mohonasen School District for many years, even prior to my son entering kindergarten. So my journey with Mohonasen began with my son being part of the program which required that we meet with the Committee for Preschool Special Education. I began to understand the educational system from the perspective of a parent, both advocating for my child and partnering with the school district. Through this experience and this time in our lives, I naturally took on the role of helping others to navigate through the process of getting their children the assessments and the evaluations and the services that they needed. Once my children entered Mohonasen, I was able to see how truly dedicated their teachers are and how much genuine care there is for the students in this community and in our school district. I volunteered in the lunchroom. I was a classroom liaison, became involved in Odyssey of the Mind, which my children have done for 2 years now. My husband and I went into the classroom on a weekly basis during my son's entire kindergarten year, which is a fantastic thing to be able to do. And we became deeply involved in our children's education. Through this experience, I learned to listen, to advocate, to evaluate, and to communicate openly on many different levels with many different individuals in the community and in our school systems. It is this skill set that I bring to the table, and I have 2 children who are now in 1st and 2nd grade, so I will be part of this district for a very long time. I am very invested in all of the children in our district and also in the future of our community, in the hopes that many of them may stay in the Rotterdam community. They are the future. So that's it.
Thank you. Mrs. Young?
Good evening. First, I want to say that I am honored to have served our district for the last 3 years, and it has been a very rewarding experience. I am running again because I truly understand the role and responsibilities of a board member. I am currently sitting as the board's vice president. Our children's future and educational experience is in our hands. They deserve to get the best education possible. All children learn differently, and we must all work together to make sure they all get a chance at a quality education. I am a huge public school supporter and also feel our teachers are the core of our children's education. Our children do not leave school remembering a type of curriculum, but a teacher who supported them and encouraged them to learn. I still have many lasting relationships with my teachers that I had from elementary through high school. I will always have many fond memories. There are many responsibilities and challenges that come with being a board member. I am ready to continue with those. I had someone mention to me last week that I must have lost my mind to want to run again, but I said, no, I don't think so. At the end of the day, this role is all about the kids. I love children and always advocate for them, and they deserve the best education they can get. They get one shot when they go to school, and we owe them the best one that we can give them. We have so much work left to do. We must continue to fight to get our schools properly funded and fight against the corporate interest groups. Our children are not experiments, and we must still fight to preserve local control of our district. There are many stakeholders involved in a school district, and I will continue to listen and work collaboratively with current board members and all stakeholders to continue to make our district a creative, synergic working environment where everyone feels their ideas and passions are welcome and will be heard. Also, this year was a year we needed to hire a new superintendent. This was a very intensive process where we worked collaboratively. I feel strongly that we made the right decision, and I would like to stay on since I was a part of that decision-making process to make sure Mr. Shine is successful when he begins his position. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott?
Good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. My name is Wade Abbott. My wife and I have lived in the district for more than 15 years, longest we've lived anywhere in our lives. Our two sons are in Pinewood and Draper. As I talk to people about running, the first question, more often than not, is, why are you running? It's an easy answer. I was asked. You see, I've shared my concerns about a number of issues with the board over the years, and I was recently involved as a community team member as part of the superintendent interview process. So I wasn't entirely surprised when I was asked by a number of folks to run for the board. And of course, other common responses I receive when I tell them I'm running are well wishes and, like you, Pamela, the occasional condolence, I think. Yet, it was on a trip over spring break to Wisconsin, to my grandmother's, where I received the response that really caught me off guard. She reminded me that my late grandfather, had served on the Board of Education in their small town in rural Wisconsin. And then she said, you know, we had a neighbor who disagreed with a decision that your grandfather made as a board member. He never spoke to your grandfather again. It was a revelation as stunning as it was sad to hear. It made me think very carefully about this decision. After all, none of us are looking to lose friends and neighbors over public service. And that's why I'm making 3 promises. First, I promise to listen attentively to anyone who shares his or her concerns to the board. I've been very happy with how the board has listened to me. I want to continue and build upon that. Second, I promise to ask thoughtful questions. Third, I will make careful decisions. We may not always agree, but I will not be disrespectful to your thoughts on that. I'm confident that if we follow these steps, it will go a long way in the process of working together to face the challenges ahead of us. Clearly, there are issues facing us. Opportunities to build a stronger culture within the district. Opportunities to fight excessive state mandates, financial difficulties, and onerous state testing. But together, we can make Mohonasen even stronger, and I ask for your support on Tuesday the 15th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Good evening. My name is Pat Ryan, and I forgot my glasses. Hopefully, I will get through this and it will make some sort of sense to you. I'm seeking a second term as a member of the Mohonasen Board of Education. 3 years ago, at the Meet Candidates Night, my opening statement mainly highlighted several personal and professional attributes that I believe made me uniquely qualified to serve as a board member. A seasoned administrator, numerous years experience in public finance, several years experience teaching at middle, high school levels, and community college. Parent of 5 Mohonasen children, diverse ages, talents, interests, abilities, and needs. Resident of over 30 years here in the district, and a graduate. Looking back, now 3 years later, I think I may have missed the mark that night. I believe I should have focused more on the reasons why I wanted to be a board member rather than the attributes that would make me a qualified board member. Because after serving 3 years on the board, I am personally convinced that what really motivates a board member to be such will ultimately determine his or her usefulness to the Mohonasen community. So briefly, here are the reasons why I seek the privilege of serving a second term. First, I want to see Mohonasen become a school known for excellence in every area: academics, sports, music, arts, and with the CAT building and all its potential, trades. We have come a long way, but there is a long way to go, and there's much work to do. Second, I want to see instructional freedom return to our classrooms. Our teachers are burdened by state mandates and experimental Common Core standards, which have not proven to produce the goals that were promised. While this is a fight, I realize, at the state level and maybe even higher, I want to be all in with the fight. Actually, I would like us to be all in together. We are talking about our children's future, and that's something that we can't just leave in the hands of detached think tanks, policymakers, and bored billionaires. Third, I want to do whatever I can, however I can, to help all students in our district to feel safe at all times, both from threats within and from threats without. And finally, I want to play whatever role I can to help continually raise the morale of all district stakeholders, but particularly teachers, to whom we entrust with the care of our children every day. Should I have the honor to serve another term on the board, these are the things I want to achieve. Thank you.
Thank you. I will start by addressing the first question to Mrs. Young, and I'll remind you, you have 2 minutes to answer the question. With the retirement of Superintendent Spring, Mohonasen will begin a new chapter under the leadership of Shannon Shine. What are the 2 most important things Mr. Shine should know about the Mohonasen community, and how will you, as a board member, support him to make this transition as seamless as possible?
Okay, well, probably the most important thing is to bring him in and get him introduced to everyone at each building, and then have him go and visit the classrooms, and also introduce him to the community. I think that's very important. And second, we need to work with him collaboratively, and give him, a background of what we're currently working on and where we want to go in the next, 3 to 5 years. Bring him on board and, work together and support him and guide him along the way.
Thank you. Mr. Abbott, if you'd like me to repeat the questions at any point, just let me know.
Please do.
Okay. With the retirement of Superintendent Spring, Mohonasen will begin a new chapter under the leadership of Shannon Shine. What are the 2 most important things Mr. Shine should know about the Mohonasen community, and how will you as a board member support him to make this transition as seamless as possible?
Well, I want to welcome our new superintendent, soon-to-be new superintendent. And I would be surprised if he doesn't already know many of the statistics about Mohonasen, because in the interview process, he rattled them off like they were right at the top of his head, and I appreciated that. But I'm not sure that gives you the whole picture. Certainly, I think the fact that the state testing opt-out rate has been very high for this district is a big concern in the community. It's a big concern for me, a big concern for many people here. But again, I don't think that tells the whole story. I think what would be most important is simply getting to know the people in the district, visiting as many teachers, staff members as possible, getting to know the board members, getting to know your fellow administrators. And I think one of the advantages that I have coming in is I'm coming in as a brand new board member to myself. So in many ways, I think I will be learning along the way as well. And I intend to do some of the same actions. And hopefully my communications with Mr. Shine can be the way that my experience will benefit him the most. It's that interaction between the two of us. We're kind of going down the same path if I'm elected.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
I think there are two things that our new superintendent needs to know. My mind is that this community is invested in their kids. Take our education seriously, and we respect each other's view. We do have an opt-out rate, quite competitively high compared to other districts. But for the past 3 years, we still have parents working together, PTOs, other venues, respecting each other's opinion because they all feel seriously about their child's education and what's best for their child. So that's the first thing. They're very invested. The second thing is that our community wants administration that is open to ideas, open to conversations, and available. And the way we would do this, I think, is what my colleagues have already repeated. We would introduce you to your stakeholders, get you familiar with them. And the second thing is the board would play a vital role as we are representatives of the community to provide advice, insight, fair warnings at times as you transition to your new role.
Thank you. Mrs. Beach?
If there were only two things that I could tell you about the Mohonasen community, I would tell you first that the people in this community are, as Mr. Ryan said, very invested and they want to be heard. And I think that includes our children who also want to be heard, and as the education is affecting them and what they want. I spend a lot of time in the classrooms talking with the teachers and spending time with the kids and talking with them. And if you give them the opportunity, they will talk your ear off about what they think about Mohonasen. And the other thing is that our community encompasses a wide range of people and of generations who are very invested and involved in our district. And that's not completely unique to Mohonasen, but I think it's important to the culture of the community because each generation that's involved has a different vested interest in the education of our children. And so making sure to keep that communication open on a level that each of those people and generations can understand and have a conversation with you.
Thank you. I will direct the next question first to Mr. Abbott. The district, with the community's support, took a bold step in building the Center for Advanced Technology at Mohonasen, which is a model of hands-on learning in real-world work environments. Since the building first opened in September 2016, as Mr. Roberti alluded to in his presentation, programs have expanded and revenues from the rental of space at the CAP building have exceeded initial projections. What does this approach to education say to you about the district?
This is probably one of the most exciting things to me because it expands the opportunities far beyond what I had available to me when I went to high school, when I went to middle school. And I did not grow up in this district, so that's not anything against Mohonasen. Let me tell you a little story. Everybody's got that one person they would love to meet, right? At least one person. The person I would love to meet, I would love to have lunch with, is Mike Rowe. Has everybody heard of him? dirty jobs. He's very invested in other approaches outside of simply college or nothing. And I think the fact that we have invested in the CAP building and in the programs within that building would be something that he would be very appreciative of. I'd love to get him here. Can we get him here? I want to meet him. Realistically, I think some of the students coming out of those programs aren't going to be saddled with the college debt that other students are going to be saddled with. I will be paying off my student loans for my master's degree after my sons start college, and that is a shame. So if we can create opportunities for students who don't have to face that, who can develop real-world applicable skills in the 21st century where we have technology changing so fast, I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
It tells me that the district under Kathleen's administration looked beyond what was right in front of them and looked into the future. In other words, the district had vision. And that's not a commonplace. It's easier just to move along incrementally in your work process. Our district has vision, and it also sees that students have diverse talent. It acknowledges that students have diverse talents, abilities, goals, aptitudes, and it provides them opportunities to graduate with other emphasis and open up doors to good careers and lucrative futures, hopefully. Our job as the Board of Education is to continue that vision and to keep looking forward, because there may be welders needed now, but maybe in 5 years there aren't going to be welders needed. We're going to have to be adaptable. We're going to have to be always looking to change to meet the needs of students. And thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Beach?
Can you repeat the question?
Absolutely. The district, with the community's support, took a bold step in building the Center for Advanced Technology at Mohonasen. Since the building first opened in September 2016, programs have expanded and revenues from the rental of space at the CAP building have exceeded initial projections. What does this approach to education say to you about the district?
Okay. I think it says that we're an innovative district, that not only are we willing to take smart risks, but we're looking to the future of what our children are going to need. The jobs that we have today are not the jobs that many of the children in our district today and in the next coming years will probably have. And so having an opportunity not only for the kids today to gain skills through those programs to take with them if they choose to go to college, if they don't choose to go to college, but also to have a center where we can adapt to the needs that we don't even know exist yet. As an employer, I see that often. I see jobs rapidly changing. I work with a lot of startup companies. I see people coming out of school and getting a lot out of programs before they even go into college. And so I think that this means that our district is taking steps that are going to put us ahead in the years to come.
Thank you.
I was
Mrs. Young?
seriously chomping at the bit to answer this because I'm so excited about our CAT building. It says a lot about our district, and many other districts are jealous of our district because of what we've done in that building. And if any of you have not been in there yet, you need to go and see it. I was so excited when I walked in there, it made me want to be in high school again. The programs that are offered over there for our children, they are so lucky to have those opportunities, because not every student is going to go to college. Not every student is going to have that skill set. They're going to want to graduate and get a job. And we have those programs over there that we can offer to them. Global Foundries, the machine, because we have a shortage, statistics show we have a shortage of skilled labor in certain areas. And here at Mohonasen, at the CAP building, we can offer some of those programs to students that can get a job when they are done and graduate high school. The welding, the nanotechnology, the machine we have in there is phenomenal. We were very lucky to get, some of the grants and some of the money that we were able to fund that building, and now the revenue that we're going to be able to get from there. And going forward, we're very innovative. We'll build relationships with colleges, hopefully, to use the building at night for adult education. So it says a lot about our district. It says that we're very innovative and we're ahead of the game.
Thank you. And I'd also like to invite you, if anybody does have questions, please just raise your hand and we can bring you a card to write them down. I will direct the next question. I will start with Mr. Ryan. Like many school districts, Mohonasen is faced with a rising number of challenging issues, such as state assessments, increasing mental health needs, a rise in perceived threats against schools, as well as balancing the rights of special education students with those of the rest of the population. What do you perceive as your role as a board member in dealing with these issues?
My role as a board member is to research these issues, hear from the administration of the data that supports these issues and informs these issues, and to help, as a board, working cooperatively together, guide our administration to making sound decisions. That will include hearing from stakeholders at times. That will include listening, debating amongst each other at times. That will include seeing what we can do to meet all these challenges within limited resources and restricted resources. And that will take prioritization.
Thank you. Mrs. Beach?
I believe that my role as a board member would be not just to listen to every member of the community who comes to meetings, but to speak to members of the community as I meet them out or as I'm in the schools, to talk with the teachers, to listen to the students, and to get a thorough understanding of how these issues impact all of the stakeholders and all of the people involved. Then to take that information back and to sit with other members of the board and have an open discussion that hears all of the opinions and ideas and all of the facts that are related from many different sources in our community. So my role would be to be a voice, but also mostly just to be a listener.
Mrs. Young?
Yes. As a board member, I agree with Pat. We have to research, these things and stay on top of what's going on currently in the education system. As we saw this year with the state assessments, there's still issues. There was flaws with the computer. I think we're still going to see that for several more years. Hopefully at some point, maybe, we will get that straightened out. We live in a different world now than when we were in school, when we were younger. Kids are exposed to, electronics, games, everything that affects them mentally, emotionally. So, and the state ed, when they come out with things, it's always so vague. So we need to work together to see how we can make things work in our district that we can fit the needs of all the students. Because we do live in a different environment now than it was, say, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. So we all need to work together as a board. And obviously we need to follow the guidelines because state ed comes down with guidelines and we do have to follow them. But we can also voice our concerns and our opinions and fight for what we want, local control at our district. Thank you.
Mr. Abbott?
I think I'll end up echoing many of the same thoughts. I currently work in a communications and community relations role. And I think that's key. Both of those aspects are key to this question because the community is concerned about these issues. And a big part of our role as board members would be to communicate with the various stakeholders. We need to get informed, listen carefully to those concerns, and we need to dig deeper. That means going back and asking questions, pointed questions. And sometimes those questions can be uncomfortable. So we need to ask those questions carefully, respectfully, but not be afraid of them. We can't be afraid of the elephant in the room. We can't be afraid to disagree. We still can work together, and I've been pleased to see what the board has done in working together even when they disagree. I think if we take that approach, we can tackle each and every one of these issues and address them and return to them and adjust as is needed. It just takes time and effort.
Thank you. All right, the next question I will address to Mrs. Beach first. What does being a champion of public education mean to you?
That's a good question. I actually had a unique experience in that my children went for a very short time to private school. Before they came to Mohonasen, they went to preschool at a private school and started kindergarten there. And the experience that I've had switching my children to public school has been tremendous. And so for me, what it means is getting the most for our students. You know, we work with limited resources, of course, they're not infinite. And so getting the most and providing the best education for our students, helping the community to understand the importance of public education so that they too can be invested in the success of our students. And that's what being a champion of public education means to me, is making sure that everybody understands how important it is and that we continue to grow the support in the community for our schools.
Thank you.
A champion of public education, I guess to me would mean someone who stays on top of the current issues, realizes, you know, what's going on, you know, at state ed, someone who stays involved and advocates at Albany or, you know, in Washington, advocates to get us properly funded. I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I don't think we'll ever get what we're owed, but we have to keep pushing them to at least try to get us what we need. And just keep, you know, going to our legislators, to the Senate, you know, to the Senate, and just keep asking, apply for grants. A champion of public education is very important. Every student deserves the best education that they can get. So a champion of public education would be someone who's going to fight every which way to try to get the best education for them.
Mr. Abbott?
I think I'm going to start off by addressing my two sons who are playing with electronic devices right now. Sorry, guys. I'm not running to be a champion of Tim and Dan Abbott. I'm running because I'm interested in all of the students. And guess what, guys? I might make a decision that negatively impacts you someday for the benefit of other students. It could be difficult, right? But it's important in looking out for the education of everybody. And the reason I say this is it goes again to my wonderful high school, and I can't wait till somebody sees this online from my high school and gives me a hard time. But I grew up in a high school that literally divided the students into two major groups. And they called them academic and non-academic. It's horrific. I had two brothers who struggled with learning. I didn't. I graduated second in my class. My parents could do no wrong. With my brothers, they were the worst parents ever. Nothing changed with my parents. It changed with that school administration and how they treated those different students. We will not do that, and I haven't seen that here, to my experience thus far, but I want to ensure that as a champion of public education, we ensure that everybody gets his or her needs met as a student and graduates with the tools they need to be successful in their lives.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
It's hard to add to that. I would just summarize it as any activity, to engage in any activity that advances the education of all children, whether that be an activity that ensures the safety of our students, whether that be an activity that lobbies our Senate and Assembly for funds, whether that activity be engaging in policy discussions that would affect our children, whether that activity would be listening to stakeholders. Anything and any activity that involves the education of our children, someone who is a champion of public education is engaged in.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if we have any questions?
I'll ask a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you approve or disapprove of the current budget that we have in front of us?
Mrs. Young, we would start with you on this question.
I do approve it.
It's a great question. Yes, on the surface, I approve it. It's a difficult situation that the school is in. Could there have been things that have been done differently in the past that may have changed some of those decisions for the better? Hindsight is 20/20. Frankly, we need to move on. We need to look forward. We need to make the decisions where we're looking around the corner when it comes to the budget and trying to anticipate not just what we expect to happen, but what could happen. And those are not easy things to do. In general, one of the things as a homeowner for the last 15 years, I've been very happy that Mohonasen is not spending wildly, hurting the taxpayers, but yet at the same time very focused on the students. And I think the school district has done very well to maintain that balance. I intend to ask those questions, to challenge the proposals that come in front of us. And we have to balance the needs of the taxpayers in the community. We need to balance the workforce needs. And of course, we have to make sure that the needs of the students are met. And that can mean that there may be some more difficult budget decisions down the road. I certainly hope that's not the case. Let's convince the state to give us the money that we're owed.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes, I voted to approve this budget proposal. I would say that none of us were happy to vote to approve it, but we were all satisfied that, and I was satisfied that every effort was taken to provide the best budget, the best use of our resources, which are limited. To give a couple of examples of how good we are fiscally in this school. We spend about $17,000 per student. Niskayuna spends $19,000 per student. Guilderland around $19,000 per student. Chalmont significantly above that. When things get tight and you have a district that uses its money wisely, as Mohonasen has typically done for many years, we've always been one of the lowest spenders per student. We have a very thin budget. We have very thin margins. It's always painful when there's not enough revenue to meet our projected needs. So I fully support what we've done here. It wasn't easy.
Mrs. Beach?
Well, given the number of controllable and not controllable costs that go into running the district, there are a lot of factors, the needs of students, the enrollment, state mandates, things that can't be controlled, that many districts feel the pain of. I don't think that there was a perfect solution, but looking at the budget and what was proposed, that I am in support of that, the choices that were made.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, we will move to closing statements, and you each have a minute to sum up your thoughts. And Mr. Abbott, we will start with you.
One of the smartest men I ever met was a farmer. He dropped out of school as an 8th grader to help take care of his family. He's my grandfather. This is the same grandfather who I mentioned before, who served 2 terms on his local school board. And even though he never graduated from high school, he never stopped learning. He even voluntarily read the textbooks that my mother brought home with her from school. Can you imagine? He understood and he instilled the value of an education within all of us in our family. This school district is tasked with providing the education and the experiences for the children in our community that they need to be successful. And that path to success is different for each of those students. And it is a daunting task to meet those needs. I'd like to be a part of that task. And I ask for your vote on May 15th.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
3 years ago, I became a member of the Board of Education and didn't know what to expect. Didn't know much about what I was about to be engaged in. And as I've come through this journey, I have found myself more and more attached to this Mohonasen community, and more so than I thought perhaps I would ever be. I'm proud to be a board member. I'm proud to work with such amazing people. We as a board, I think, have shown that we can work together with very diverse stakeholders, even amongst ourselves. I want to continue that for the betterment of our children.
Thank you. Mrs. Beach?
I come from a family where education was always very important to my parents, to my family. My father-in-law was a teacher at Duanesburg for 32 years. My grandmother was a teacher. My brother is a school social worker in Schenectady. My entire family is invested in one way or another in education. I taught at Bryant and Stratton College as an adjunct after I received my master's degree. I have a passion and a love for learning, and I have shared this love with my children. So in looking at the Mohonasen district, I want for all of the students in Mohonasen to have not only their needs met, but to really fall in love with their education again. And what I hope to bring to the community is an opportunity to know that you have an ear, and that I will help be your voice. Thank you.
Mrs. Young?
I am 100% vested in this role. I spend a lot of my personal time reading or attending free events to keep up with what is going on in our education system currently and what's going to be going on in the future. I also have a strong financial and business background. I am proud to serve our district, and I am proud of our community. We have so many great things going on here at Mohonasen. When my son and I relocated here after losing our home in Tropical Storm Irene 7 years ago, while I was recovering from battle with breast cancer, this district welcomed us. The teachers and homeroom parents were wonderful. This is why I wish to serve again. I want to continue to see Mohonasen grow and offer our kids the best education they can get. I am Mohan proud, and I hope you will re-elect me. Thank you.
Thank you. So that concludes our Meet the Candidates portion of tonight. As I mentioned, we have recorded both parts, and they will be online this week. I want to thank you all for coming and for answering questions and putting yourself forward. I want to thank Mr. Roberti for taking care of our timing. A reminder, the annual school district budget vote is Tuesday, May 15th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. in the Mohonasen High School gym. And also as a reminder, we typically have student work on display, including, as many of you know, musical performances, which are scheduled to start, I believe, around 5 p.m. But please check the district website for additional information on the budget, for additional information on what's happening that day. And thank you all for coming out. Have a great night. And we will start the Board of Education meeting shortly. Just get set up. Thank you.